Diving really is something that's different to everybody. It is cold, it is wet. Those are pretty common throughout everything. But you know, on one hand you get this feeling of weight. You are essentially weightless the way that you kind of trim yourself out when you go diving. And so it's really neat to really feel like you're flying over a shipwreck.
Yeah. I'm just always in awe of the scale of the vessels. So you think about how big they would be, you have a measurement that you know of, and then when you go down there and you're swimming around and you're present on this vessel which was sailing 150 years ago, how small you feel in comparison to the ship. But yeah, to go diving was really an interesting way to experience history. Many people don't feel that connection to the Great Lakes, although it is right here. We have people that come from all over the world to experience our resources. So to dive in our fresh, clean water, to see the shipwrecks in this pristine condition. And so I think educating people and connecting them back to that very important part that really is integral to our history of why we're here. You know, we were on this freshwater highway, and that's how immigration started to this area. Even before that, the Native Americans used our waterways.
So when we start to try to look at wrecks, in many cases we know what wreck it is that we're looking at. Or if we don't have any idea of what it is, we try to identify the wreck. Then from there we try to ask more and more questions about what the sailors were doing just before the wreck sank, why the vessel ended up sinking, and then we take all that information with us back to the office and do some more analysis on it to try to kind of get a better understanding of the ship. You do initially, going down to it, the idea that nobody's seen this shipwreck in 150 years in some cases. That is a very emotional response. Or if you're on a site where you know what the wreck is and then you know people perished in the sinking event. And so that's also something that's, can be very emotionally taxing. But at least I feel when I'm down there doing the work, a lot of times I get very into the weeds when it comes to taking the measurements.
Yeah, we really do have to be a well-oiled machine when we go down. If you think about it, when we go down to visit a shipwreck, we may be on it for 30 minutes or maybe an hour if it's shallower. So shutting off and just getting your job done is really an important part of this work.
Now with the introduction of the invasive species, we have a much higher level of water clarity. But on the other hand, you also have that sunlight that's now that much deeper, and so things are able to grow.
A lot of divers are coming to us and saying that the shipwrecks are deteriorating a lot faster. And so that makes our job very important as far as being able to get out into the field, to respond to new discoveries, and to catalog what it is that we see.
So we've been fortunate enough to work with Sea Grant almost since the inception of our program. Very early on, Sea Grant saw the benefit of being able to look at and fund projects that were based on cultural resources that impacted or were impacted by the aquatic sciences as well. And so that's something that over time we've been really fortunate to be able to work with.
What keeps me going is really the next discovery. It's what shipwreck will be found this year and what other missing part of our maritime history can we tell? What can we learn from that?